What's up, guys? Go ahead.
With Mostert playing instead of Alfred, was that game plan specific, and if so, was it effective enough for you to consider that to be a permanent change?
No, I don't think it was a permanent change. It was just what we thought was best for that game. Raheem got a ton of reps all week because Breida didn't practice too, so we knew Raheem was going to play in the game regardless. We didn't know how long Breida would go. Breida started the game. I think we put Raheem in for his first carry on the 5th play, and he ran well. I think it was 4 yards for a contact, and he got about 5 more after it, so we just kept him in there. He was running well.
Yeah, the timing of that, he's never had a major workload in a game. He just fumbled again. That's been an ongoing issue. What gave you the confidence to say, hey, yeah, this is the time for you?
One, we needed to. We weren't sure if Breida was going to play all week, and we were preparing for him not to play. We really weren't 100% sure about that till Monday, earlier the day of the game. So we went in that game knowing we were going to need Raheem. So he got all those reps in practice, and the way he practiced, it was extremely obvious to all the players and the coaches how locked in he was, how up for the challenge he was. I know he was down from the fumble the week before, but when the best way a guy could respond through a week of practice, he did, and then it carried over to the game.
One of the big improvements within the running game this year from last year is just the blocking on those outside zone plays. How has that evolved in your eyes?
Very well. I think the more you do the same stuff, the better you get. I think Joe in his second year has gotten a lot better at it. I thought he did a good job last year, but he's gotten better. Lakin got here I think like 6 days before our first game last year. Ended up starting, I think, week 2 for the first time, and he gradually got better as the year went. So I would expect him to be better this year, and he has been. Mike Person's done a good job. McGlinchey's come in and done great, and Richburg has been as good of a center as I've seen.
With Mostert now, it seems like you can run a lot of the same plays as with Breida, and you could with Morris too, but it seems like Mostert has that speed that you're looking for. Is that beneficial that maybe you have an idea of that now, that you don't have to dramatically change your running game or your game plans if Breida were to suffer an injury or something like that?
A little bit, but when outside zone, speed's great when it goes outside. But it doesn't always go outside. Outside zone, if they play a certain front, it can end up on the front side of the numbers. And if they're playing wide and running that way, it can end up on the back side of the numbers. So outside zone's what we do. I'm just saying 65% of the time. But we mix in tight zone, we mix in gap plays, we block down and toss it to get outside. So there's lots of different stuff you can do. But outside zone, you don't have to be fast. You got to be an efficient, good runner.
You mentioned Breida's toughness the other night, and he said after the game he needs to be in a wheelchair or something to stay out of the game. Well, is there something about being a guy who's undrafted or just kind of comes from where he comes from that you think instills in that guy? Do you see something different in those kind of undrafted guys?
A lot of the time, some of those guys they got a chip on their shoulder. They come in to the league always ready to get cut every single day. And even after they've proven themselves, some of those guys never lose that. And those are some of the best guys to be around, and those guys have some very, very good careers. You get that too with some first-round draft choices also. It doesn't mean that it's 100%, but a lot of times when people go undrafted, they do come in with a bigger chip on their shoulder.
Having Marquise out there just open up everything else offensively for you guys.
It was huge. I mean, I think you guys saw that for your guys' selves, and we've been missing Keese a lot. He's been battling to get back, and that was the first game. The true Keese was back. He was able to run the same way he usually does, and he played very well for us. Not just the plays he made, but he blocked very well and did a lot of good things when he wasn't getting the ball. So that loosens up the coverage for everyone. Keese does a good job, and he also helps out other people and helps our run game.
Last year, Kello, when he got in, he played well and just seemed to improve. Well, why is he taking a step back this season?
I'm not sure. That's something we're working through with him. I do think he had his best week of practice last week, which had a good talk with Kello about that before the game, and it was the most encouraged we had been with him last week through practice. And I think Kello will be there exactly where he was at last year, and I expect him to get better from that. It hasn't happened right away, but he's going in the right direction now, and I expect it to continue.
Why didn't you you go to him when Jimmy went down?
Oh, Jimmy practiced all week as our starter, and we gave Maben the backup role. So we knew that going into the week that Akello was going to take the back seat. We had him get a little bit more scout team reps and challenged him in that way, and he was up to the challenge. He very similar to Raheem last week. I'd say those two guys responded the best, and I think that'll help him this week get more opportunities.
With the issues late in the game, allowing Montgomery to get to the outside and out of bounds, Maven allowing those passes at the sideline, how much of that was just situational football, not being fully aware of no timeouts and what the Packers had to do?
I think it's a little both, and it's also, he gets put in a tough situation. We play soft zone one time, and Aaron buys a bunch of time and then scrambles for, I forget the yards, but it was about 30 yards right up the middle. So then you try to go to a little bit more man stuff, get guys on them, and they got him once to the left and then to the right. There was a safety over the top. We call it two-man, and then Aaron threw a very good back shoulder. So, it was a tough position for Maven. He's done a lot of good things for us. I know he was disappointed in that last drive, obviously, but I've seen Aaron and Devontae do that to a number of people too.
Kyle, similar to Akello, Solomon only played 26 snaps. It's number 3 pick. People say, what's going on there? What is it going to take what does he need to do, I guess, to get more?
It's really all those guys. It wasn't just Solomon. It was Armstead also. But we're challenging our guys week in and week out, and we don't just stick with the status quo. We're trying to get better each week. We're trying to create competition. We're trying to challenge guys. We have a certain rotation on the D line, and Armstead got the majority of those in our past situations. They're all good inside rushers, but you only have 2 inside rushers, and Armstead got those Buck has gotten it every week. Armstead got those opportunities the first 3 weeks. Solomon got it the next 2 weeks, and we thought Sheldon earned more of it. So we gave Sheldon more of it versus Green Bay. Sheldon had produced pretty frequently with limited reps, so we thought he deserved an opportunity more in Green Bay, and he got more of those reps for that.
On that bubble screen touchdown, did you think about using a timeout there? And it seemed like they were taking advantage of the personnel because I think you guys had 4 linebackers on the field and they went out wide. Is that what happened, and why not take a timeout?
I wasn't close enough down there. I wasn't expecting us to come out and line up wrong to it. We had one guy go to the wrong side. 10 guys were lined up right, and one guy went to the wrong side, got a little bit confused. And when that happens, you're down one guy to set the edge, and it was a walk-in. It's a play that we run a lot on our defense. We just had one guy going to the wrong side, and we have 4 linebackers out there because they were in goal line personnel. So we were in our goal line personnel, which only has 1 corner on the field. And we didn't line up right, and I am not fast enough to get down there. Might have used to be, but not anymore.
If you're not the guy, then is someone on the field supposed to recognize that and call a timeout, or is it just?
Yeah, I would have liked them to, obviously, but they snapped it fast, and we didn't get it done. They caught us off guard, and we got to make sure that mistake doesn't happen again.
No, you expressed total confidence in Salah. He's obviously getting heat because people see just miscommunications that just don't look right. Do you talk with him about this, or why would you say you do have such total confidence in him despite some of the miscommunications?
I have confidence in him because I've been coaching for a long time, and I've been around a lot of coaches, offensive coaches and defensive coaches. So, I have confidence in him because I should. He's very good at what he does. He's very smart, and he runs a very good system. Anytime there's a mistake, you always look at coaches, you look at players, it's all of us. And we did make too many mistakes, especially in those first 17 plays. And that starts with me. It goes to Salah, it goes to the players. And we're all committed to fixing those. We have to fix those. Those do happen sometimes in games, just like it happened a lot on the other side of the ball. It's going against Green Bay's defense. But it can't happen too much, and you have to clean it up. And we had too many freebies at the beginning of the game, especially, I want to say 4 out of those first 5 plays. Got a lot better after that. I think they held them to 100 yards on every single drive and 6 points until the 2-minute drive at the end. So they did respond the right way, but it was not good how we started out, and we got to get that fixed.
Is it over-eagerness? Is it not communicating to the secondary what the what the coverage is, like on that first play?
Yeah, I know, when you sit and you guys ask questions like this, I would love to give you guys one simple big answer, but it's 100 little things. You go to each clip and it's one guy off, one guy not. One guy does communicate, but then he doesn't see the guy go across. There's lots of things that happen in a play. There's not one word. We could all sit and I could go through about 70 clips with you guys and show you exactly what happens, but that happens in the course of football games all the time. And I promise you there's not a game that any defense goes through and doesn't make mistakes, or offense. But when we do have them, they can't be magnified. And unfortunately, when we had them, we're giving up a few 60-yarders uncontested. When that happens, it's very tough to win, especially versus a quarterback like that.
You mentioned yesterday that when you turn on the Rams, you see a lot of similarities, obviously, offensively between you and McVay. How much kind of your general philosophies offensively were kind of finalized or refined, I guess, in that Washington room when McVay was there? What are kind of the origins of that?
Well, I mean, I don't understand your question. What do you mean?
Like when you and McVay were together in
Yeah.
Washington, obviously you were the coordinator, he's position coach. What was kind of the interaction? How did you kind of develop a lot of the philosophies that you're both employing now?
Oh, I mean, it's the same way you do now. When you're a coordinator, you don't just sit in a room and do it all by yourself. You involve everybody, and so you get to put together an offense. Went through a lot of different stuff with Sean out there, running the offense we brought in that I had ran in Houston. Adjusting it to the different quarterbacks that we had, going through a number of schemes in those 4 years and doing a lot of football. Sean was very good at it. Really enjoyed working with him. He's a good coach and a real good friend, and we got to put a lot of that stuff in together. And just like you do everywhere and everywhere you work with, you're always a product of your environment. You carry things over, you change a few things. We've both gone some different directions over the last few years, but when you do turn on the tape, it's very similar.
Coach, that sort of loss, the game's there for the taking in the final minutes up to the final second. Does your team take confidence out of that, or does it hurt their confidence?
I mean, I think you got to look at each individual and ask them that. I know it hurts. I think our team fought their ass off, played as hard as they could go, and did some really good things. And I think we had every opportunity to win that game, and we didn't get it done. And just like I said earlier, you can't come up with some big answer for that. It's a bunch of little things. We had our opportunities in the end. I was very happy with our defense and how they stopped Aaron a number of times at the end and gave the offense a chance to put him away. And we came up short on offense and didn't put him away and gave him a few too many opportunities. And so you can go into those situations where there's a couple situations we can throw a catch better, a couple situations where we can get in a better look. But it just comes down to plays, and everything's magnified at the end of the game. There's similar plays at the beginning of the game that happens, but it's going to come down to the end. And we got ourselves in a position to win that. I believe we should have, and we didn't get it done. And you got to go as a coaching staff, teach your players why it didn't work, what they could have done better, what did work, and you learn from that and know, hey, we could have won this, but we didn't. We didn't play good enough there at the end. How do we make sure that doesn't happen this week?
Initially, where will Tom Savage be practicing? What positions out there on the practice field?
Well, he'll be doing more scout team looks. Today is kind of it's a walkthrough day for us. We're not going to go full speed or anything. Today's normally players' recovery day. This would normally be 2 days after a game, so we're a day behind. So we got to have our normal Wednesday practice, but it's going to be all walkthrough tempo. So he'll be walking through the scout team cards, giving looks, whether it's at safety, something like that.
When he settles in, will he compete for the backup spot?
No, I mean it's very hard for someone to compete for the backup spot. I mean, the backup spot doesn't get the only reps the backup spot gets in the NFL is the scout team cards, and so we'll give them some scout team cards to let them get some work and stuff. But in order to have guys compete to be a backup player, that means I'd have to give both of them reps over our starting quarterback, and that's not something anyone would ever do at this time of the year.
A couple more. People would say Mullins has never played in the NFL. Savage has experience. It seems on the surface, that he might give you a better chance if something happens to CJ.
Yeah, I'm sure it does seem on the surface, but one guy knows our offense and knows how to line people up and has played in it and has done a lot of good things where our team has confidence in him. Another guy just got here last night and is just trying to learn what the words mean. Has ability. He's the guy that I've always been impressed with his ability, but he just got here, and by no means are we trying to have a number 2 quarterback competition battle right now. We're trying to get our starters ready to play, continue to prepare our backups in case something does happen. And if that does ever happen, we'll deal with it then.
Back on McVay real quick. Obviously, you guys run a lot of the same stuff, but you do it with with 2 running backs and fullback. And they do it with 3 wide receivers a lot. How much of what you're doing is kind of goes back to what you were talking about before in terms of being able to do anything out of the same look? Is that kind of the genesis of what both you guys do?
I think so. I mean, there's a lot more to it than that. I think, just talking to Sean Assuming, he really likes his personnel in 11, and I would agree. They got some real good players there, and you want to keep them on the field a lot. We like our personnel in 21. You try to get your best players on the field. That also gives you an advantage, and I think they've done a very good job at that, and offensively, and I think we have also.
Oh, do you have any idea of the significance of Ward's injury, and did he sort of win a competition over the last few weeks to solidify that starting job, or was it still going to be week to week going forward?
He had won that last week. That's why he didn't have competition last week. He was going into that game totally as a starter, and we went into that game with Maven backing him up. So he did tweak his hamstring, and we have a walkthrough tempo today, but if we were practicing, he would not be practicing. So we'll see how it goes this week with him, whether he comes back. But anytime you have an injury and stuff, it does open up for other people to have opportunities.
All right, thanks, Kyle. CJ.
Thanks, guys.